Hello, brothers and sisters. I have no idea where this study is going to take us. There is a lot here. I'm in Zechariah chapter 9, and we're going to jump it around a bit. And I don't know how far we'll get, but we'll do what we're going to study today. And then hopefully I'll have time to do studies a little more often. I'm sorry, but I was doing my taxes. We're still in this world for now. The burden of the word of Yahweh against the land of Hadrach and Damascus, its resting place. Now, Damascus was the capital city. So it was the capital city of Syria. Okay. And its modern name is Esham, which means the east. There is a prophecy in Isaiah 17:3 that we want to kind of keep in mind as we go through trying to unravel all this. 17 verse 3 says, "The fortified city will disappear from Ephraim, and royal power from Damascus." So whatever God is at this time calling Damascus, remember it was the governing city of Syria in the olden days. But now it's representing a royal city today. Okay, and this is what we have to tease out, because these are types and shadows of the past to give us clues to understand what's happening today. The remnant of Aram will be like the glory of the Israelites, declares the Lord Almighty. Okay, this is interesting because Aram is the area that the mothers of Israel came from. So Rebecca, her father was an Aramean, and then Leah and Rachel, who were the direct mothers. So Rebecca was the mother of Isaac, and then Leah and Rachel were the mothers of the 12 tribes, along with their handmaidens. They were Arameans, so this is where they came from. So we have a very strong tie to that region. It is part of the patronage of the Israelite people. Okay, let's go ahead and read this tidbit. Aram, an ancient country in the Middle East, southwestern Asia. It extended eastward from the anti-Lebanon mountains. Remember, the Lebanon mountains are the white mountains of the territory of Ephraim, to beyond the Euphrates River. It was named for the Arameans, who emerged from the Syrian desert to invade Syria and upper Mesopotamia, and who built numerous city kingdoms, including Damascus. So Damascus was originally built by the Arameans when they took over Syria. It lends its name to the Aramaic language. That's where we get the name for the Aramaic language from. The Arameans, who were in the patronage of not just the mothers of Israel, but the reason why they went back, for instance, to get Rebecca is because the father of Rebecca was related to Abraham and Sarah. These were their people. This is where they came from. So back to what we're studying, the burden of the word of Yahweh against the land of Hadrach. I really don't understand what the land of Hadrach is yet. And Damascus, its resting place. For the eyes of men and all the tribes of Israel are on Yahweh. So this is a time, this is at the end time, when all of Israel is looking on Yahweh again, right? Also against Hamath, which borders on it, and against Tyre and Sidon, though they are very wise. So let's kind of look at Tyre now, because that's where we're going to go next. For Tyre built herself a tower. Okay, so she became a mighty a mighty power, right? She built herself a tower and heaped up silver like the dust and gold like the mire of the streets. So this is also a group of people, or this is a place where great wealth is concentrated. Behold, Yahweh will cast her out. He will destroy her power in the sea. So we know that this is a sea power, and she will be devoured by fire. So there's a place where we can go to get a little more information about who Tyre might be in the latter days, and that's Isaiah chapter 23. Because this is what I have found, is that Isaiah has the entire story of the latter days, but that, oh my goodness, my youngest son is busy humming, I know you, I waltzed with you once upon a dream in the background. Oh my goodness. It must be stuck in his head for some reason. Anyway, Isaiah 23 gives us insight into who this is today. The burden against Tyre. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no harbor. From the land of Cyprus it is revealed to them. Okay, so here's a map. So here's Aram that we were talking about a little while ago. And then here's Tyre, which is part at this point of Phoenicia. But it was originally inside the land allotment for Asher, okay, for one of the 12 tribes. Tyre is really interesting. So the Israelites never conquered Tyre. Okay, it always remained independent. It was a place of great wealth where trading was taking place. Tyre originally was on the mainland, but then after it was sacked, they actually built the city out here. Okay, and then later it was destroyed again by the conquering ruler. Was it Alexander the Great? I can't remember who it was, but they built a causeway all the way out to it and conquered it and destroyed it. But anyway, the main city was at this point out here on this small island. And if you'll notice, see, here's Tyre once again. And then here's Syria and Damascus. So I want to show you how close all of these are, right? And here's Israel. Right here is Cyprus. So Cyprus is the one that tells about the destruction of Tyre. I'm sure this is what happened in the past, but now we're looking for a repeat of this in the future, but different places and different players. So back to Isaiah 23, wail, you ships of Tarshish, because remember this, the burden against Tyre, wail, you ships of Tarshish, because remember this is a shipping power of some sort, a naval power. For it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no harbor. From the land of Cyprus it is revealed to them. Be still, you inhabitants of the coastland, you merchants of Sidon, whom those who cross the sea have filled, and on great waters the grain of Shihor. Okay, so it's just talking about how amazing and strong this group is. Hang on, we're going to go down now. Okay, so now I'm in verse 6. Cross over to Tarshish. Wail, you inhabitants of the coastland. So evidently the coastland is going to get hit. It's going to get destroyed. Is this your joyous city, whose antiquity is from ancient days, whose feet carried her far off to dwell? So I don't know if these are the original inhabitants of Tyre that was destroyed, because it says that whose feet carried her far off to dwell, whose antiquity is from ancient days. So it could very well be that they started there. These are the descendants of the people who were conquered in the ancient Tyre. I don't know, but that's what it could mean. Who has taken this counsel against Tyre? Look at this, the crowning city. Okay, this is a city where it looks like people are crowned, whose merchants are princes. Okay, so this is a place where we find royalty today, whose traders are the honorable of the earth. Now let's go down. Now we know that we're definitely at this point talking about the latter days and where Tyre is and who Tyre is in the latter days, because we're now in Isaiah 23, but we've skipped down to verse 15. Look at this. This is fascinating. Now it shall come to pass in that day, there's that phrase, so this is the end time, that Tyre will be forgotten 70 years. So Tyre is some kind of strong naval or shipping power who is going to basically fall off the map of world power for 70 years, according to the days of one king. So this is going to happen during the reign of a single monarch. At the end of 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the Song of the Harlot. Now I want to show you something because I think this tells us who this is. Okay, Elizabeth II, who was the Queen of England until just recently, Elizabeth II, in full Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, officially Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and of her other realms and territories, Queen, head of the Commonwealth, defender of the faith. Okay, it says that she was Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland from February 6, 1952 to September 8, 2022. 52 to 22 is 70 years. Her reign lasted for 70 years. In 2015, she surpassed Victoria, her great-grandmother, to become the longest reigning monarch in British history. Back to Isaiah 23. Now it shall come to pass in that day, okay, latter days, that Tyre will be forgotten 70 years, according to the days of one king. Is that Queen Elizabeth? At the end of 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the Song of the Harlot. I'm going to skip over the Song of the Harlot and come down here to verse 17. And it shall be at the end of 70 years that Yahweh will deal with Tyre. She will return to her hire. She's going to hire lovers. So Queen Elizabeth was known for promoting and being an example of Christianity in her nation. Okay? So it says, though, that she's going to return this nation to her hire and commit fornication with all the kings and kingdoms of the world. Okay? Fornication in the scriptures is always when we leave our God and go whoring after other gods. Her gain and her pay will be set apart for Yahweh. It will not be treasured up nor laid up, for her gain will be for those who dwell before Yahweh to eat sufficiently and for fine clothing. Now let me show you something. Okay, according to Today magazine, the coronation is scheduled for Saturday, May 6, 2023. That's pretty fascinating because remember that the lunar eclipse, so there's going to be the special, very rare solar eclipse that's going to occur on April 20th. And in my way of looking at the calendar, that would make April 21st New Moon Day, because that is when the light will rise on the moon again. And so 14 days later would be May 5th, which is when we have the lunar eclipse, which in my mind is either that we're off by a month and that is the official Passover, or that is second Passover, one of the two. I'm still not completely sure of my understanding of that. Although remember that it's very interesting because the sun will be centered at that point in the Lamb, which would represent the Passover lamb, and the moon will be centered at the time of this lunar eclipse. It will be centered in the scales of justice, right? And it's the lamb who protects us from that from the judgments of God, right? So that's really fascinating. So that's May 5th, the evening of May 5th, and the morning of May 6th is when this coronation is scheduled to happen. Is that a coincidence? I'll let you decide. Something else interesting is the only other time that Prince has worn a crown is when he received his investiture, I'm going to use the correct words here, as the Prince of Wales in 1969. And describing this crown, it says that 13 diamonds are arranged in the shape of the constellation Scorpio, Charles's star sign. Is that a coincidence? I also wanted to make mention that Camilla is also going to be I'm having a hard time with words today. That Camilla will also be crowned queen consort at the same ceremony. So we will have both a king and a queen. I wanted to share with you a little bit about what British coronations are about. So it says here, the coronation of the British monarch is a religious event. It presents the political, theological vision of the British state as a union of nations and peoples under God. Isn't that interesting? Because in the United States, we say one nation under God, indivisible, right? This union is celebrated in the coronation ritual, which occurs in the context of a Eucharistic liturgy. Eucharist is about communion. In this case, God bringing together the monarch and people in commemoration of Jesus' Last Supper, self-giving death, and salvific resurrection. So this is a commemoration. So the coronation event is a Last Supper event. Isn't that interesting? So the coronation is all about Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ, and about the fact that the British monarch is a representation, a representative of Christ to the people. Okay? And this is what I heard an Anglican priest talking about. I was watching an interview where he was very upset because the fact that the liturgy has not come out yet for the coronation is making him think that they're going to rework the liturgy in order to make it more palatable to other religions that find themselves currently among the citizenry of Great Britain. And as a matter of fact, it says right here, we can also expect the liturgy will include ecumenical, reflecting other Christian churches, and interreligious elements to which Charles and recent British monarchs have become more sensitive. So it looks like that is why they haven't seen the liturgy yet, because they're going to adjust it. But of course, if they adjust it to make it fit with all religions, which would include, there's a huge Muslim population in Great Britain. There's some Buddhists, there's some, anyway, all different religions. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that the Anglican priest brought up is that there's also a very large element in England now that would consider themselves atheist. So if they're going to change it from a ceremony that devotes their kingdom to the one true God and to Jesus Christ, in order to find greater favor with other peoples, then that is exactly what we just read was going to happen in Isaiah. And it shall be at the end of 70 years that Yahweh will deal with Tyre. She will return to her hire and commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world on the face of the earth. So instead of staying strong and being devoted to Yahweh, to Heavenly Father and to Jesus Christ, right? They are now going to try to appease all of the different kingdoms of the world, and therefore commit fornication, because we can only have one God. Only one God. So it's really interesting because in Isaiah 23 it says, from the land of Cyprus it is revealed to them. But here in Zechariah it says, Ashkelon shall see it and fear. See the destruction of Tyre and fear. Gaza also shall be very sorrowful, and Ekron, for he dried up her expectation. The king shall perish from Gaza, and Ashkelon shall not be inhabited. All of the cities that I just mentioned are all here in Philistia. They were the Philistines. They're cities among the Philistines. And there was one in particular called Jebu, which was the original name of the nation of Jerusalem. I want to read to you about them before we read the next verse. The Jebusites were a Canaanite tribe who, according to the Hebrew Bible, inhabited the region around Jerusalem prior to the capture of the city by King David. Before that time, Jerusalem was called both Jebus and Salem. The Tanakh contains the only surviving ancient text known to use the term Jebusite to describe the pre-Israelite inhabitants of Jerusalem. According to the Table of Nations, the Jebusites are identified as a Canaanite tribe, listed in third place among the Canaanite groups between the Hittites and the Amorites. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The books of Kings state that once Jerusalem had become an Israelite city, this is the important part, the surviving Jebusites were forced by Solomon to become serfs. Okay, we read that so that we could understand a little better these next few verses. A mixed race shall settle in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. I will take away the blood from his mouth, and the abominations from between his teeth. But he who remains, this is really interesting, even he shall be for our God, and shall be like a leader in Judah, and Ekron like a Jebusite. So evidently the Jebusites, who were not wiped out, who became serfs at some point, also became a leader in both Judah and Ekron was one of the Canaanite cities. Interesting. Continuing in Zechariah chapter 9, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. This is the daughter of Zion. Remember, this is the one that's in labor. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem, behold, your king is coming to you. He's coming, guys. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on a donkey. This is interesting. He is just, remember? So the moon is going to be on May 5th, the moon is going to be in the sign of the scales, justice, and the sun is going to be in the sign of the lamb. Okay? He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. I will cut off the chariot from Ephraim. I believe this is talking about military power. Okay? So whoever Ephraim is, their military might is going to be taken away. And the horse from Jerusalem. Okay? This is the same thing. Okay, the chariot, the horse, this is military might. Jerusalem, remember, is a capital. The battle bow shall be cut off. So all of these are talking about the same thing. He shall speak peace to the nations. His dominion shall be from sea to sea. So this was not fulfilled in his first coming. This is his second coming. And from the river to the ends of the earth. As for you also, because of the blood of your covenant, some of the translations say my covenant, I will set your prisoners free from the waterless pit. I actually think my covenant is a better rendering of that, because it is through the blood of Jesus Christ, Yahushua Mashiach, because of the blood of my covenant, that we are set free from death and hell, okay, from the waterless pit. Return to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Okay, what is the stronghold? I'll show you. Jeremiah 15, verse 19. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, if you return, right, oh backsliding daughter, right, then I will bring you back. You shall stand before me, okay, on Mount Zion, if you take out the precious from the vial, right? This is the separation of the wheat and the tares. You shall be as my mouth. Okay, this is the cleansing of Jacob, right? The time of Jacob's trouble. If you take out the precious from the vial, you shall be as my mouth. Let them return to you. Okay, so the stronghold is the daughter of Zion. Okay, redeemed, the redeemed daughter of Zion, not the one full of putrefying sores, right? But you must not return to them. Okay, so those that wish to come and be renewed have to come to Mount Zion. Okay, and I will make you to this people a fortified bronze wall. Okay, the tower. And they will fight against you, but they shall not prevail against you, for I am with you to save you and deliver you, says Yahweh. I will deliver you from the hand of the wicked, and I will redeem you from the grip of the terrible. Micah chapter 4, starting in verse 6. In that day, says Yahweh, I will assemble the lame, I will gather the outcast, and those whom I have afflicted. I will make the lame a remnant, and the outcast a strong nation. So Yahweh will reign over them where? In Mount Zion, from now on, even forever. And you, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, to you shall it come, even the former dominion shall come, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem. So there it is. The stronghold is Mount Zion. Back to Zechariah chapter 9, verse 12. Return to the stronghold, you prisoners of hope. Even today I declare that I will restore double to you. For I have bent Judah my bow, fitted the bow with Ephraim, so Ephraim's the arrow, and raised up your sons, O Zion, against your sons, O Greece, and made you like the sword of a mighty man. Then Yahweh will be seen over them. Look at this, and his arrow will go forth like lightning. Okay, remember what it just said, and then here we are. It says, Psalms 18, Yahweh thundered from heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. Look at this. He sent out his arrows and scattered the foe, lightnings in abundance, and he vanquished them. And I just want to take you here to Deuteronomy 33. Remember, the cleansed of the daughter of Zion is the firstborn son, the tribe of Joseph, also called Ephraim, right? So here is the blessing of Moses upon Joseph. It says, may these rest on the head of Joseph, I'm in Deuteronomy 33, verse 16, and crown the brow of the prince of his brothers. His majesty is like a firstborn bull, okay? Firstborn and bull, right? Because the bull symbolizes Egypt, and his mother was an Egyptian, and he was born in Egypt, so that we know exactly who this is talking about. And his horns are like those of a wild ox. There you are again, right? With this imagery of cows. With them he will gore the nations even to the ends of the earth. With them he will gore the nations even to the ends of the earth. Such are the myriads of Ephraim, and such are the thousands of Manasseh. Back to Zechariah 9. Then Yahweh will be seen over them, and his arrow will go forth like lightning. The Lord God will blow the trumpet and go with whirlwinds to the south. So I wanted to show you something interesting in Stellarium. Remember, we've been talking about this special eclipse that's going to happen on April 20th, okay? This is 3 days later on April 23rd. And Venus, which represents the woman, the bride, right? The bride of Christ. Look at this. Venus is in the horns of Taurus and being and in conjunction with the moon. In conjunction with the moon. Back to Deuteronomy 33. His majesty is like a firstborn bull, and his horns are like those of a wild ox. With them he will gore the nations even to the ends of the earth. Such are the myriads of Ephraim, and such are the thousands of Manasseh. Verse 15, Yahweh Sabaoth will defend them. They shall devour and subdue with sling stones. They shall drink and roar as if with wine. They shall be filled with blood like basins, like the corners of the altar. Yahweh, their Elohim, will save them in that day as the flock of his people. So look up, your salvation draweth nigh. When you see all of these frightening things happen. Luke chapter 21, we'll start in verse 25. And there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to happen, okay, so when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Back to Zechariah chapter 9, verse 16. Yahweh, their Elohim. I think you say that Yahweh Eloheinu will save them in that day as the flock of his people. For they shall be like the jewels of a crown, lifted like a banner over his land. This is interesting because we were just talking about the jewels of a crown. Lifted like a banner over his land. For how great is its goodness, and how great its beauty. Grain shall make the young men thrive, and new wine the young women. I believe that new wine is the new covenant. It's the new doctrine. The new wine that couldn't be put in the old wine bottles because it would burst the bottles. But he's going to make our hearts new. This is for those whose hearts have been circumcised to Jesus Christ, to Yeshua Mashiach. And grain shall make the young men thrive. Grain. Okay, that can either be talking about the scriptures, which is what we feast upon, right? Feast upon the words of Christ. Okay. It could also be talking about the harvest of souls. Okay, the bringing together of the true believers, right? Because we're going to bring the wheat into the barn, and then the tares are going to be bound in bundles and burned. I hope you found Zechariah 9 to be just as inspiring and interesting as I did. Blessings and shalom.